Hey, Steeler Nation, what's going on? This is Big B, Brian Hanley, and welcome back to Steelers Almighty. You know, Steelers Almighty right now, people, it is the fastest growing Steelers podcast on YouTube right now. So, and that's all thanks to you guys. We appreciate you being here. We got a good show for you guys today, man. Doing some player profiles today. We've done a few in the past, but we're going to dig in to some of the future stars here on player profiles today. First off, we're going to talk about George Pickens. And can George Pickens be elite? And what does that look like? Second, Keeanu Benton. You know, Keeanu Benton started to really come on last year, and I think he's going to be the key to the Steelers' defense on whether it can take the next step and be in a top 5 defense this year, which I've already been on record saying it is, so you like some of the stuff that I have to say about Keeanu Benton. Next, Joey Porter Jr. I mean, I think he came on last year, was an outstanding cornerback, excuse me. How good can he be? I mean, let's take a deep dive in how good he can be. We're also going to take a dive, and you'll love that what we're talking about, some of the analytics talking about Joey Porter Jr. Absolutely unbelievable what PFF has to say about him. We'll dive into that. And then last but not least, we're going to do a 53-man roster. So what we believe the 53-man's going to be coming out of camp. Again, it's just predictions. So make sure you stick around to the end as far as that is concerned. Again, man, weekly, you can always find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Steelers Almighty. Always find us on all the social media platforms, everywhere that you see Steelers Almighty, that we are on all social media there. And then anywhere that you get a podcast, we are there. Steelers Almighty. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe. We appreciate it, man. Let's get into the show. So we're diving right in here. So the first things first, let's talk about George Pickens. You know, George Pickens, the first thing that I think for him to be an elite receiver is we got to fix the maturity issues. We saw some of that stuff all throughout the year. You know, we definitely saw it his rookie year. Last year was a lot of frustration, just being frustrated, not getting the ball, offense not doing the things that he and a lot of us thought that it should do. He's got to fix it. Look, I think the low point was probably that Indianapolis game last year where there were a lot of Steeler fans that were like, just get rid of him. We don't need it. Just move on from him. And then he changed his tune. He got better. I think maybe some people probably got in his face in the locker room, whatever happened. But that's the first thing with George Pickens. If he can change his attitude and his maturity, I really believe that he can take off. The next thing is his route running. Look, I'm not saying that he's a bad route runner. I think a lot of the stuff that people talk about, myself included, on him not being a good route runner is some of the things that he was asked to do. He wasn't asked to do that much. And I think a lot of that is because of the limitations of the offense. You know, Matt Canada's offense, I hate even bringing up that man's name, but it's just the truth. A lot of the offense and the stuff that Pickens was being asked, it was just, okay, we're going to run a slant. We're going to run a stop route, and we're going to run a go route. Other than that, how many out routes did you see him run? There was a few, but it was few and far between. I think there's a lot more to the route tree that he can do. And I think there's going to be a lot more to the route tree that he's going to be asked to do for the Pittsburgh Steelers. For him to become an elite receiver, he's going to have to do that. Now, the one thing that he does well that kind of goes underrated is his blocking. Now, you're going to say, well, Brian, you just talked about the Indianapolis game, and I get that, but that was an outlier. But George Pickens is an outstanding blocker. I mean, when he puts his mind to it, which is a lot of the time when it comes to the run game, he is an incredible blocker. And in an Arthur Smith offense, he's going to have to do even more of that. And I look forward to seeing him being able to do that. So something that he takes pride in, and it's something that makes him an even more elite receiver, more complete receiver. Like to see that out of George Pickens. So I guess look at his 2023 numbers. Let's just take a quick look at that and what he did. I like it. I really like what he did last year. Just think about what George Pickens was able to do with the quarterback play, and he was still able to put those type of numbers up. Number one, the quarterback play and his attitude issues. If he can fix the attitude issues, it looks like that we fixed the quarterback issues. We got something here. You know what I'm saying? We got a little something here. So I think he can be elite. Now, let's take a look and see, I guess one question is, what does 24 the 2024 numbers look like? Let's take a look at that. If he's going to be an elite receiver, what does that need to look like, in my opinion, for him to be the kind of receiver, the type of elite receiver that we all believe that George Pickens can be? So when you take a look at that, look at the numbers, look at the catches, look at the yards, look at the touchdowns. Yeah, he's going to have more catches, obviously. 85 catches, I think 1,350 yards, 9 touchdowns. Now, you're going to say, well, come on, B. The yards per catch are going to go down. Look, he's going to have more coverage rolled his way. Not to mention, in the type of offense, it shouldn't always have to be boom or bust with George Pickens. 1st and 10, give me 4 yards on a quick out route. I'm okay with that. 3rd and 2, give me 3 yards on a quick comeback, a quick slant, a stop route, a dig, a quick dig, anything, crossing route. I'm okay with that. And again, that gets into more of what's he doing with the route tree? What can we do? How can we use them? And if you're going to be an elite number one receiver like that, you got to be able to do all those sorts of things. So I think George Pickens, he's going to have more catches to be elite anyway. Got to have more catches, got to have more yards, got to have more touchdowns. Look, the yards per catch, it's going to go down some just for circumstances, but that's okay. That's okay. And again, yards after the catch, it's going to go down some just for the simple fact he's going to have more coverage rolled his way. There's going to be more bodies around him. So breaking a lot of tackles and running, it's not always going to be there. So, but also one thing to keep in mind, if you are going to be elite, you got to be a third team All-Pro at the minimum and a Pro Bowler. And if things go the way that I think they will this year, I think that's where we're going to see George Pickens, people. I really do. I think we're going to see George Pickens take his game up to the next level. Even with all the running that they do, I think we're going to see him take his game up to the next level. So let's take a quick poll question here. George Pickens, do you think that George Pickens breaks out and has an elite season? Do you think that George Pickens breaks out and has an elite season? Yes or no? Please leave your answers in the comments. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good season for George Pickens. I really do. Really, really do. For if nothing else, because he's seen the contracts that some of these receivers have gotten, and he has a big third year. His contract's going to be due, and he's looking to get paid. So there's that. Now let's look at Keeanu Benton. Let's move on to the next segment here. Keeanu Benton. I've said it for a little while now that I think Keeanu Benton's going to be the key to the Steelers season. He made a lot of strides last year, a lot of strides. One of the things about Keeanu Benton, and maybe it was a fact that a lot of people didn't notice, but he wasn't in professional football shape. I think he was in college football shape, and there is a huge difference. But I don't know that he was always in professional football shape, just for the simple fact, it's not that he didn't work hard. He just didn't know. I think that's what a lot of it had to do with. He just literally did not know how to be in professional football shape. Well, now he does. And if you see him in OTAs and minicamp, he looks like a guy. His body looks like a guy that he's taking it seriously, understands what he needs to do, and that he has moved his body in a progression to where he can play more snaps, not taking plays off. Things are going to progress. I like what I see out of Keeanu Benton. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He's the key to the Steelers having a dominant defense. Look, he's also the key when we talk about Cam Heyward. And let me explain why. it looks, for all intents and purposes, that the Steelers are going to move on from Cam Heyward, or they want to try to move on from Cam Heyward. Well, if they want to move on from Cam Heyward, the quickest way for them to be able to do that is to have Keeanu Benton play well. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Well, come on, they don't play the same position. Keanu's more of a nose tackle. Well, first of all, the Steelers play a ton of nickel. 40% of the time they were in nickel, which means they had a true 3 technique out there. Keeanu Benton can do that. Absolutely, he can do that. Now, he plays nose and does a good job at it, but he can also play the nickel. First of all, even in the nickel, him and Cam Heyward are interchangeable between 3 technique and nose tackle. That's number one. But if you're wanting to move on from Cam, or you feel like you can move on from Cam, well, this is the guy. This literally is the guy. Got to be that guy. Like, and not to mention, he's got to be able to match the intensity. I'm not saying that Cam's going to have the greatest season, but you know that Cam's fighting for his football life. He literally is fighting for his football life. Well, if that's the case, you know you're going to get the best that he can give you. Whether his ability is there because he's 35 years old, who knows? But you know his intensity is going to be there. You know his mental toughness and focus is all going to be there. Not that it wasn't in the past, but you know that it's going to be there. Well, Keanu needs to suck all of that in and just absorb it and be able to match that intensity. If he can, the Steelers got something. I'm telling you right now, the Steelers got something because he plays with a mean streak already. He's only getting better. This is a big, big year for Keeanu Benton and for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really do. I think this is a big season to find out what he can do. And if the Steelers can say, thank you, Cam, we love you, but it's time for you to move on. It's time for you to move on, which I think they're pretty much there anyway. But a big season out of Keeanu Benton goes a long way to the Steelers being able to put other resources other places. All right. So we're moving on. Now we've come to the halftime point of the show. Now, we haven't done a halftime before, but we're doing it now. The one thing is, because I want to shout out, we got our first super the other day, and we appreciate it, from our man, Tom Smith. Obviously, that's a big deal. We're a new Steelers channel, Steelers Almighty. We haven't been there around that long. It's just over 90 days. And again, we appreciate everybody. But this was our first super that we received last week from our man, Tom Smith. So that's just one way that you can support us. So again, if you like the show, the supers are wide open. So if that's a way that you want to help support the show, we love it. Continuously, we would love for you guys to continue to like, follow, comment, all that good stuff. Those are the other ways that you can help support the show. So one thing, though, is that although we are the fastest growing, YouTube podcast, or Steelers podcast on YouTube, I should say, we are the fastest growing Steelers podcast on YouTube. Only 11% of our viewers are actually subscribers. So if you like what we're doing, make sure that you always subscribe, like, all of that good stuff. More importantly, comment, because we love going back and forth with you guys. I love going back and forth, talking to you guys when you have questions, even when we disagree. Nobody's being disrespectful. We're just here talking, man. We just want the same thing. We want the Steelers to be as best as they can possibly be. So again, we appreciate everybody's support. And thank you guys again. Let's get on with the show here. Let me grab a little water. I apologize. Okay. Next up, how good can Joey Porter Jr. be? Well, you're going to really like what I have to say at the end of this, man, because, again, it hits a nerve with me. Is that, first of all, I have no idea why Joey Porter Jr. didn't start from day one last year. I was pretty vocal about it. I have no idea why he wasn't out there. When he actually got on the field full time, clearly he was the best cornerback that the Steelers had on the roster. And you can't tell me that he just became the best Steelers cornerback when he got on the field. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that. And moving him along slow and this and that. Unnecessary, man. Unnecessary. Put the guy out there. And when he got out there, he played good. He played good. Look, he traveled with some of the, and how many cornerbacks can you say in today's day and age travel with the best receiver? He was doing that. He was playing very physical football, good football, little handsy. I understand. And does he need to knock some of that off? Yeah. But that's part of what makes him good is his toughness and his physicality. So Joey Porter Jr., man, I'm telling you, the guy was a handful. Is he a lockdown corner? I guess is the question. Is he going to be the next lockdown corner in the National Football League? I think he will be. I really do. I know that's a lot of Steelers fandom, but if you just watched and you paid attention, you know he was good. And again, didn't even play the whole year. For some reason, the Steelers just, you know how we do, and it just gets old to me. It's old way of thinking. You got to ease them in. Same with Broderick Jones. I'm like, put the guys out there. They're better than the guys that are currently playing. Who cares if they make some rookie mistakes? You're going to have to live with that. And you still had to live with that when you eventually put those guys in. Joey Porter Jr. did that. I mean, he made some rookie mistakes, but that was few and far between. I'll be honest with you. He played outstanding football, loved it, absolutely loved it. Now, here's the thing. He still, like I said, needs a little polishing. You know, he's not a finished product. Like I mentioned, little handsy, grabs, things you could get away with in college. He'll have a lot more attention on him this year. So the flags, he might get a couple of more flags. But if he cleans that up and again, accepts coaching and just understands, hey, man, you're in position. You don't have to grab him. Don't panic. If he does that, I'm telling you, he's going to be the next big time corner in the National Football League. Now, what are the rankings? Let's talk about Pro Football Focus. Let's go to that here for a second. So at the end of last year, Pro Football Focus had Joey Porter Jr. ranked number 20. Now, was he number 20? I would be venture to say he was top 15, but I can live with top 20. I can live with it. Going into this year, I'm thinking, okay, Pro Football Focus, he's going to be ranked probably around 12. He's going to end up higher. No. Pro Football Focus has Joey Porter Jr. at 32. Now, I want to relay that again to you because I know you're thinking, B, you've lost your mind. You don't know what you're talking about. No. At the end of last year, at the end of the season, he was number 20. Going into this season, so the only thing that has happened is free agency and the draft. So basically, they're saying that 12 guys that got drafted are going to be better than Joey Porter Jr. And now he's 32. I've said it once. I'll say it a trillion times. Pro Football Focus is a tool. But when you allow for nerd analytics to get in the way of what you see with your own eyes, that's a problem. It's a problem for me. And that's the one thing, anybody that always comes into the comments and they start bringing up some of these nerd analytics, I'm sorry. I'm not listening to it. I'll never disrespect anybody, but I'm not going to listen to nerd analytics, man. I'm just not. I'm going to watch. And what I see, I'm going to use that over what some nerd analytics say. You can't tell me that a man finishes the season at number 20, but somehow you think he's going to be a worse football player and he's coming into the next season at 32. That makes absolutely no sense. And I don't want to hear any trying to logic on why it would make sense. I'm just going to argue with you. That's just crazy to me. But hey, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Let's go to the poll question. Poll question, Joey Porter Jr. Where do you think JPJ will finish the season ranked among other elite corners? Top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20. I think I told you what my answer is. I say top 20 or top 10, excuse me. I believe he's going to be in the top 10. Pro Football Focus doesn't believe that any of this is going to be realistic. They say 32. 32. The thing that drives me insane about that is that there are some teams like the Jets had 3 guys ahead of him. So not only did their first 2 corners, they got either a slot corner and the backup or the backup they say is better than Joey Porter Jr. It's that kind of nonsense. That's what I'm talking about, people. I'm not saying that Pro Football Focus is horrible. I'm not saying it. But what I am saying is that it's just a tool. It's just a tool. Use your eyes. You know what you see and go based on that. Don't let nerd analytics get in the way. Don't let it get in the way. So, all right, we're going to move on, people. Now, let's 53-man roster. Now, again, the 53-man that I came up with, or we came up with, is just what we believe out of camp. And it could be right or wrong. You know, we're not Omar Khan. We're not Mike Tomlin. But this is what we believe here at Steelers Almighty, what the 53-man roster is going to be. Let's break this down real quick. Now, as far as the offense, we'll go offense to defense. Offense first. Quarterback, pretty simple. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kyle Allen. I know people like Plumlee, the rookie out of UCF, practice squad guy. No. If he even makes the practice squad, I would probably have Kyle Allen as a practice squad. Here's what I will say. If Kyle Allen is your third quarterback in your QB room, you have a good QB room because Kyle Allen is not horrible. He is not horrible. I'm not saying he's a starter, but he could be a backup on a lot of football teams in the National Football League, and he's our third string guy. So the QB room, just think about the QB room last year compared to this year, people. Just think about that for a second. Lord have mercy. Isn't it just refreshing to just, hey, we got a chance. I'm not saying the guys are going to be, Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or whoever. I'm not saying that. But when you have a chance, it just makes everything else better. We didn't really have that much of a chance last year. Some of it was Matt Canada, but some of it was who was actually in the quarterback room. So, baby hands Pickett. Just can't with that guy. Moving on. Running backs. Pretty simple here. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Cordell Patterson, and then DeJuan Edwards, the undrafted running back out of Georgia. Georgia doesn't always feature because they usually play 2 or 3 running backs. I'd like him to make this team. I like him to make the team, and I'm not sure he's going to have a big role, but I'd like him to make the team. I do. Got to have 4 running backs. I like him to make the squad. Look, Najee, we know what him and Jalen Warren are going to do. Cordell Patterson, obviously he's going to be in return game, but he might have some sort of role as, in the running back room. He may have some sort of role there, but I just like DeJuan Edwards. I like him to make this squad. Now, here's where it got tricky for me. Fullback. Last year, we didn't have one. Previous 3 seasons, we had Derek Watt. But if you paid attention, how many 21 personnel sets did we run? Or 20 personnel? Or 23 personnel? How often were we in that? Not very often. So Derek Watt wasn't getting, if you're just talking about offensive snaps, it may have been 2 or 3 a game. Maybe. Well, Arthur Smith likes a fullback. So I've got Jack, and I believe it's Coletto. I've got him right now as the fullback making the roster. Now, we're not Omar Khan. We're not Mike Tomlin. They might overrule it and say, no, we don't want a fullback. But Arthur Smith traditionally has kept the fullback. Not that they've used them, because, again, if you pay attention, they have the fullback on the team, but then are a lot of 11 and 12 personnel in an Arthur Smith offense, which, again, that is not with a fullback. So who knows what they're going to do? Who knows? But for me, for right now, we're going to have them on there. Then we got wide receivers. We got 6 wide receivers. Pretty simple. George Pickens, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Van Jefferson. I've got Scotty Miller making the team. And then I've got Quez Watkins making the team. 6 wideouts. You need 6. And I think they're going to keep 6. Quez Watkins. That last one obviously is going to come down to who can play special teams. Can any of those guys do it? We'll see. But that's who I believe is going to be on the team. Again, always set up for, will the Steelers go grab a receiver, during training camp, before training camp starts? Who knows what they'll do, but we'll find out. We'll find out. But that's who I've got right now as far as receivers. Tight end, Freiermuth, Washington. And I think the battle, look, Connor Heyward had a role last year. He did. But McCole Pruitt, I don't think they just brought him in here to do nothing. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, he's more of a blocker. We already got Darnell Washington. Why do we need another blocker? I just think it might be a battle between Heyward and Pruitt. Bring some competition in. Nothing wrong with competition. So whoever wins that battle, I think it's probably going to be Heyward, but who knows? Who knows? So, offensive tackle, Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu, and Dan Moore Jr. I know there's been a lot of talk about, well, the Steelers may trade Dan Moore Jr. And as much as Steeler fans, and a lot of Steeler fans, I shouldn't speak for everybody, a lot of Steeler fans, look, we like Dan Moore Jr., but he can't be the starter. He just can't be. Even if they want to try to do that, no, Fautanu's got to win that job. We got to put him out there from day one. You're not trading Dan Moore unless somebody's willing to give you a third-round pick. If they want to give you a third-rounder, yeah, you go ahead and do it. As many starts as that guy has at left tackle, if somebody wants to grab him, that means they want him to come and play right now, then you got to pay a premium for that. And for me, and I'm pretty sure Omar Khan feels the same way, third rounder. You want to give us a third rounder, we'll come off Dan Moore Jr. If not, not happening. So, then at guard, got 5 guards. Isaac Seumalo, James Daniels, Nate Herbig, who I know will back up at center as well, Mason McCormick, Spencer Anderson. Now, Dylan Cook, I know people are going to say, what happened there, B? I just don't know, man. I just don't know. A lot of other spots that we need. We got 5 guards. We got a backup center. I just don't know. There's going to be an odd man out, and I believe he's going to be the odd man out and may end up on the practice squad. That's what I believe. Center, we got Zach Frazier, and then I already mentioned Nate Herbig being the backup. So that is who I have for the offensive side. Let's take a look and see what we got and who's going to make the squad on the defense. All right. So first off, defensive line. I got a lot of them. And I think you got to have at least 8 off our defensive linemen. Cam Heyward, Keeanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi. Then I got Montravius Adams, Isaiah Loudermilk, Dean Lowry, Logan Lee. A lot of people think Logan Lee might be a practice squad guy. I've got him making the team. And then Brendan Fiahoko. Yeah, I like him. I'm sorry, DeMarvin Leal, I think he gets cut. I mean, if we're being honest, again, we love everybody. We want everybody to play well. But I want to win. I want the best competitive team. What has DeMarvin Leal shown us that says, yeah, we need to keep him on this team? I don't think he's shown us enough. We've got other guys. I think that's the way that the Steelers are going to go with their defensive line in the 2024 season. Outside linebacker, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig. And then I've got a parentheses for a free agent because we know the Steelers like to have at least 4 outside linebackers. And the trick here, well, let me just break this down too. Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, and Elandon Roberts for inside linebackers. Now, you'll notice the person that's missing is Cole Holcomb. I think he's going to start out the season on PUP. Who knows when he comes back? We've already heard reports that he's not going to be ready for week 1. And I'm guessing if he's not going to be ready for week 1, how do they know that? Well, then he probably is not going to be ready for the first month of the season. Okay, fine. But that's why I have parentheses there, because if you keep Cole Holcomb and he's actually able to come back and play this year, can you use Peyton Wilson as a backup outside linebacker as well? I think that's what you do, because we saw it in college, what he can do coming off the edge. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Brian, come on now. You've been screaming for Peyton Wilson to start at inside linebacker, and I have. I absolutely have. But if we've got other guys, if we need somebody to do something else and he's versatile, We've got Landon Roberts. He can play there. I mean, they're going to be battling it out for that position anyway. And if Cole Holcomb is available, use your versatility to your advantage. Use it to your advantage. That's all I'm going to say. Now, does it mean we can't go out and sign a Marcus Golden? I think we probably could. Marcus Golden got signed late last year, came in and did an outstanding job. I'm sure he could come back, and hopefully he's in the same type of shape, can come back and do the same thing. So that's a spot. Just keep an eye on that outside linebacker position. I think the Steelers need 4. I only have 3, but I got a parentheses. We just covered the inside linebackers as well. So let's go to corner. Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Cam Sutton, Corey Trice Jr., Anthony Averett, and Darius Rush. I think those are the guys. I know a lot of people, Beanie Bishop, these are the guys that I think are going to be on the team. These are the guys. I don't think you go out and sign an Anthony Averett if he can't play, because here's what I believe. If he can't play, I think minicamp and OTAs would have shown you that, and then they just move on from him. Look, they just move on and just say, you know what? This is not the guy. Sorry, we got to move on. We got other guys in here. And I think you're giving him an opportunity. I think he ends up making the team. I really do. And I think Darius Rush ends up making the team. So those are the cornerbacks that I have. Now at safety, I think it becomes a little bit more questionable. And here's the reason why. Obviously, Mika and Deshaun Elliott. Then DeMonte KZ / Ryan Watts. I think that's the battle. And I know I talked about Anthony Averett earlier. I also think if Ryan Watts makes the team, I think Anthony Averett gets cut. I think he gets cut. He's the odd man out for me personally. Now, again, I know I just talked about him being the corner and beating somebody else out, but if Ryan Watts, he's super versatile. If he's able to play and make the squad, I think you keep that versatility. You get rid of Averett, and then you look to add somebody at another position on the roster. That's why being versatile in that role is so good, because I think Ryan Watts is a safety. That's his best position, but he can also play slot corner. I think he'll be fine there. I think he can excel there. So that's why you want the versatile guys in the secondary like that. And take a young guy if he shows the promise. So that's the battle. A lot of people are out there saying DeMonte KZ is not going to make this squad. If he can win this battle, I think he wins it. I just think, that's my personal opinion, but I think he's got to beat out Ryan Watts. If he can, great. If not, I'm not going to be overly upset that Ryan Watts wins that backup safety position. Just not going to be that upset with it. So then at long snapper, look, Christian Kuntz, great. I mean, what can you say? Here's the one. Cameron Johnston. Lord have mercy. Have the Steelers needed a punter? Oh, my gosh. I don't even want to say his name because I'm afraid I'm going to jinx our punting game, and it's just going to bring up more bad juju. I'm not even going to do it. But our punting has been pathetic for 3 years. Lord have mercy. Thank you for getting us a different punter. Thank you. So Cameron Johnston's that. And then we got one of the best place kickers in football, Chris Boswell. I mean, quiet as it's kept. And then I didn't mention Miles Killebrew. He's technically Miles Killebrew is a safety, but we all know he is our special teams guy. So that's the roster in a nutshell. That is the roster in a nutshell. Again, feel free to leave where you agree, disagree, all of that stuff in the comments on who you think the roster for the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers is going to be. Now, look, in closing here, we talked about, Joey Porter Jr., Keeanu Benton, George Pickens. We talked about all of those guys and how they needed to have big years and how they are basically need to become stars. I believe that. We've seen it all across the league. Young guys becoming superstars in the National Football League. We haven't seen that often in Pittsburgh. TJ Watt, Mika Fitzpatrick, Cam Heyward became a star, but it was kind of a little bit later in his career. We need these guys to be stars now. And yeah, I get it. It's a lot to put on young players. I understand all that. But we've seen it all over the league, man. We've seen where teams have young guys in their first, second, third year become superstars in the National Football League. Well, at some point, don't the Steelers need one of those guys? Don't the Steelers deserve to have one of those guys? And why not? If we're going to have one, we can't have two or three. Of course we can. It's our turn for that. It is absolutely our turn for that. I think the Steelers need it for them to have the season that they want to have. I think it's a necessity that they step up and be the big play guys that I believe that they can be. So that's all I got for you guys today, man. We appreciate everybody that has given us your support so far. Again, if you haven't already, remember to like, follow, subscribe. You can always find us again on youtube.com/Steelers Almighty. Anywhere that you get a podcast, you can find Steelers Almighty. And on all the social medias, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, the Steelers Almighty. Appreciate you guys. Aloha.